Hi everyone, welcome to my user story video. My name is Mayrin Barrios and today we'll be going through how I created the entire user interface. Let me show you in order to have an idea of what the entire user interface consisted of. The user interface for our project consisted of different controls. Let me walk really quick through the tooltips so I can show you. It consisted of all these controls that were the instructions the user could execute, a solution panel, an option to submit the instructions, an option to clear all instructions, and this different data from the game that the player sees. In a regular website or web application, when you click on a button, you call either you request something from your server. In the case for a game engine, we do not make a request. In our case, we have to create the logic behind creating this methods for this buttons. For example, let me show you this script. The script that handles the clicking of the controls is called span instructions, and it's right here. And what this does is that every time a user clicks on this object, it creates a copy of it and it populates it on this solution panel. The solution panel is over here. Inside a grid, you're going to notice that every time I click on this control, a copy of it's made here. As you noticed, every time I clicked on it, a copy here was made, and it was also showing up here. The code for that is right here. Anytime the user clicks it, I create a prefab of that button and I add it right here, and I reformat how it looks like so that it does not look like a simple button, but instead it just looks like text. That is exactly what I'm saying here. When the user clicks on a specific command, I display it on the solution panel, and then I increase the command count of the panel, and this is because after adding a certain amount of numbers, which is the maximum in my solution panel, I will display this scroll bar, and this scroll bar is only displayed after the amount of commands that I have in my solution panel exceeds a certain number. And that's what I'm saying here. That's why every time I add a command, I return its count, because I am always going to check if it exceeds the maximum commands that my command holder holds, and if it does, then I'll display the scroll bar. Another thing that I had to make sure that was working for this user story was the communication between the character movement and the enabling and disabling of all the controls. As you can see, when I click on submit and my character starts walking, all of my controls get disabled, and that's because I don't want my character to be executing an instruction while I add or delete any more instructions. Continuing on the acceptance criteria, I already went through how we choose the commands, and another acceptance criteria for the user interface was for the user to be able to delete commands. So anytime I have commands in my solution panel, when I hover over them, I have this delete icon that appears only when my mouse is on top of an instruction. The way this works is, in Unity, I always keep count of the location of my mouse. Whenever the location of my mouse is on top of this instructions that I created from my original button, then I display this button that it's actually there all the time I just deactivate it when I leave the instruction and activate it whenever I hover over it. And the logic behind it is when I click on that button, I delete that instruction. But as if you noticed over here in this hierarchy, anytime I delete it from my solution panel, I'm also deleting it from my list, my actual physical internal list of solution panels. The next acceptance criteria is that the user is able to submit commands. So as you could see prior, when my user clicks on the checkmark icon, it gets all the children from my solution panel. The children would be the actual instructions. It gets all the children from my solution panel, and it sends it to a script that actually processes this individual instructions and adds it to a list. This list I will later pass on to my other team member who gets it and does something in order to move the character. And as we mentioned before, my controls are enabled and disabled as appropriately. Whenever my character is executing an instruction, I disable it. And whenever he finishes, I go back to enabling it. We already went over that when the user hovers over the command, I'll display the delete button, and whenever I'll wait for the mouse to go away from the command, and I will disable the delete button. When he clicks on the submit button, I will add all the commands to my command list, how I told you prior that I would get all the children from my solution panel. The children would be the commands, and I will send it to that command list that disable all the controls in order to not allow the user to be entering or deleting commands while the character is actually executing them. Then I call the other script that actually executes these commands, and I finish for them to be executed when I then enable all my controls again. The clear button works as follows. I can clear whenever I have instructions in my solution panel, and they all get deleted as well from my internal solution panel list. I believe I have covered everything for this user story. Thank you so much.